Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sherifa Mohammed M.G.T.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Between January 3rd through 9th, 2026, the armed forces of the Russian Federation executed a coordinated week-long campaign combining strategic strikes and sustained ground offensives across all operational axes. The reporting period reflects a clear emphasis on systemic degradation of Ukrainian combat power, targeting military-industrial capacity, energy and transport infrastructure, airfields, ports, UAV production and training nodes, while simultaneously achieving incremental territorial gains and inflicting heavy attrition on Ukrainian maneuver formations. If sustained, this operational approach will continue to erode the armed forces of Ukraine's capacity for coordinated counteroffensive action through early 2026, reinforcing a prolonged positional phase defined by logistics exhaustion, ISR degradation, and cumulative manpower losses.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, it's good to be here.
Colonel Oguntoye, to set the frame, this briefing covers an entire week of operations. How would you characterize the overall approach taken during this period?
The defining feature of the week is scale applied with discipline. The armed forces of the Russian Federation combine strategic fires with sustained ground pressure across every axis. Rather than seeking isolated tactical victories, the campaign focused on systemic effects. You see that in the sequencing of one massive and four-group strike series against industry, energy, transport, airfields, ports, UAV production, and training. The intent is to interrupt regeneration while ground forces apply attritional pressure that compounds those disruptions. From an infantry commander's perspective, this is how you align battlefield action with strategic purpose. Ground maneuver is synchronized with strikes on the systems that feed the fight. That alignment is what produces cumulative effects rather than short-lived gains.
Let's start in the north. The week saw the capture of Grabovskoye and heavy losses inflicted across Sumy and Kharkiv. What does that tell us?
In the north, taking Grabovskoye is tactically modest but operationally meaningful. It improves buffer depth and observation near the border while denying staging space. Over the week, the defeat of multiple mechanized and territorial formations, combined with the destruction of electronic warfare and counter-battery assets and a large number of depots, shows a deliberate effort to suppress both maneuver and sustainment. Along the Kharkiv direction, the breadth of units engaged, mechanized, motorized infantry, territorial defense, and National Guard indicates denial at scale. The goal is not simply to push the line, but to ensure that any attempt to mass or counterattack is starved of ammunition, fuel, and coordination.
Moving west, the seizure of Podoli stands out. Why is that significant?
Podoli sits within the geometry that governs the Kupiansk axis. Advancing into that space and holding it tightens the logistical vice. Over the week, losses inflicted there were substantial, but the more important metric is depot destruction. When you eliminate nearly 30 ammunition depots in a single axis, you're not just winning engagements, you're collapsing tempo. Doctrinally, this is positional warfare done right. You constrict supply, force the defender to fight on a rationed clock, and let time work against them, particularly under winter conditions.
The South liberated Bondarnoy and engaged a very wide mix of Ukrainian formations. What's the operational logic?
The South reflects broad front pressure designed to prevent regrouping and rotation. Liberating Bondarnoy matters because it disrupts local defensive coherence. But the real story is the mix of units engaged, mechanized, mountain assault, airmobile, marine, territorial defense, and National Guard. That tells you the enemy is committing whatever is available to hold ground. The destruction of armored vehicles, including Western-made platforms, along with artillery and a large number of depots, suggests effective combined arms coordination in dense terrain. For infantry, this kind of pressure breaks cohesion before it breaks lines.
The center sector again shows the heaviest losses. Is this still the decisive axis?
Yes, The center remains the campaign's fulcrum. Over the week, losses there exceeded 2,000 personnel, along with significant armor, including a German-made Leopard, artillery, and transport. The variety of formations struck: mechanized, airborne, amphibious assault, marine, territorial defense, and National Guard signals an intent to shatter operational cohesion. When you consistently dominate the attritional fight in the center, you shape outcomes everywhere else. Adjacent axes benefit because the enemy's best formations are being consumed where they matter most.
What about the East? We saw the liberation of Zelenoy and Bratskoy.
The East shows methodical advance into defensive depth. Liberating Zelenoy and Bratskoye tightens operational geometry and forces the enemy to trade space for time. Over the week, the defeat of mechanized amphibious assault, marine, and territorial units, alongside the loss of artillery and vehicles, indicates continued erosion of layered defenses. This is patient infantry work, supported by fires and sustainment denial. Each village taken compounds pressure on the next defensive belt.
And the Dnipro sector, often overlooked but clearly active?
The Dnipro sector is about denial and containment, improving tactical positions there while destroying electronic warfare and counter-battery systems, prevents stabilization along riverine approaches. Even when personnel losses are lower, the destruction of systems and depots has outsized effects by limiting the enemy's ability to shift effort or coordinate fires. Quiet sectors often decide campaigns by constraining options elsewhere.
Air and missile activity was intense this week. How central is that to the ground fight?
It's integral. Strike UAVs, missiles, and artillery destroyed MLRS vehicles, including a Czech-made Vampire, and air defense systems such as the German-made Iris-T. At the same time, air defenses intercepted guided bombs, HIMARS rockets, Neptune missiles, and more than 1,000 fixed-wing UAVs. This speaks to a saturated air information environment. For infantry units, control of that domain directly affects survivability and tempo. If the enemy's long-range strike and ISR capabilities are degraded while your own are protected, ground operations become far more sustainable.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to emphasize that tactically, the January 3rd through 9th period reflects disciplined combined arms execution at scale, integrating strategic fires with ground maneuver to degrade manpower, armor, artillery, ISR, and logistics simultaneously. Infantry advances are synchronized with depot destruction and counter-battery dominance to minimize risk and maximize cumulative effect. Strategically, the sustained emphasis on the center as the decisive axis, paired with logistics strangulation in the north and west and incremental depth gains in the east, points to a campaign designed to exhaust the armed forces of Ukraine's operational capacity rather than force a single decisive clash. If maintained, this approach will continue to constrain maneuver and regeneration through early 2026, reinforcing a prolonged positional phase defined by systemic pressure, information control, and endurance.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive frontline updates from commanders in theater.